I don't know. I spend so much of my life just seeping myself in human psychology and why we do the things we do and what motivates us and the irrationality of us and the delusions that we live in.
I was having a conversation with a few friends of mine yesterday, and one of my friends actually made a point that he believes that the government has like our best interest in mind, and that
Some of
there's
them
no
do, yeah.
conspiracy behind for the
Mm,
behind the big pharma or the military industrial complex or anything
mm.
like that. So if I brought up things like the real Fauci documentary or
Oh,
Russell
sure,
Brand,
yeah.
who talks a lot
Yeah,
about
yeah.
the military
I,
industrial
I
complex.
lost a lot of respect for Russell Brand during the pandemic. I got to tell you, it was too bad.
Really?
Yeah, because I feel like Russell Brand is an interesting guy, but again, he's just one of those guys. I'm like, dude, you don't know anything. Why do you think you're a fucking expert? Or the Fauci thing too. I actually met a guy who was like one of the producers of some Fauci documentary at TNC last year, right? Some random dude. I didn't know the guy, some bald dude. And I meet him and we're chatting at the IM party or something. And I'm like, oh, what do you do, man? He's like, I'm a documentarian. I'm like, what do you do? And he's like, oh, I created The Truth About Anthony Fauci, where I reveal the evil, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, that sounds like bullshit to me. And he's like, what? I'm like, that sounds like crazy fucking bullshit. I think Fauci actually is just a guy who's dedicated his life to public health, who's doing the best he can, who's been demonized by people because people like to fucking demonize. And he just looked at me with this blank look on his face because I think I don't know. It's really interesting to me when I take a lot of pride in the fact that I have a lot of friends who disagree with me. Right. And I disagree with them. I'm an atheist. Many people I know are very religious. I'm, left of center. I know a lot of fucking crazy ass right wingers, and I will tell them they're crazy, right, to their face, but we're also still friends. And it's interesting to me how many people just never talk to anybody who disagrees with them about anything. And then when you actually do, whether you're polite or not, they do not know how to fucking handle it. They take it as a personal attack. And I'm like, I didn't attack you. I just said what you believe is fucking weird. like it's okay. People believe in all sorts of weird shit. But I do think that's one of I don't know. I had this experience recently where through a business thing I'm doing, I got to meet this guy who is very, very right. Like, he's a politician. We've become friends. We get on. He really likes my mustache. We have not talked about politics. I don't expect that we will talk about politics anytime soon because I don't want to, and I don't want to ruin that. But I do think it's interesting because I talked to him and he's talking about how he wishes people who disagree could just talk to each other and blah, 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 blah. And I'm just like, yeah, but I don't think you seek out anybody who disagrees with you. Or this is a guy who I think if I actually sat him down with some gay or trans friends of mine and he was able to just whatever, eventually he'd be like, oh, you're just fucking people. You're just fucking people. Like, it doesn't matter, but people are so afraid to be around anybody who challenges their worldview or challenges anything. It's unfortunate, but it also is just like, I spent 20 years in persuasion and marketing now. And what I've learned is that people are irrational and this is just what we are.
Yeah, I mean, we all could sit down and say, you know what, let's zoom out. Let's say, okay, we're both humans. Yes, we can agree on that. Like, we both want the best for our families.
Yep.
You have to start from some kind of a common ground, right?
Well,
But
that's charisma 101 too, right? Like, that's how you get to know people. You're always looking for some commonality. What do you do? This is why we're always like, oh, we went to the same school. We like the same sports team. We have the same name. We have whatever else. So that's like, if you want to become friends with somebody, immediately just try to find something common. Like this guy, he liked my mustache because he had a mustache too. And it's kind of a masculine, tough guy kind of thing to a lot of people. And it gave us a chance to bond very, very quickly. Right.
What about income? So what I've
Mm-hmm.
found a bit difficult is to make friends and to make those friendships stick when there's a big gap in income.
Yeah, it can be. I've been poor and I've been rich, and now I'm where I am, which is very, very comfortable, and I make more than I need, but not as much as I'm not making like multiple millions like I used to, but I hope to get back there again. I also don't need to because whatever. I just think it's important not to let it be part of the conversation, man, right? Like, I have many friends who I've had for 20 years who, my buddy Mason and I were joking the other day, and he was joking about me being the rich guy. Actually, my buddy Dan was joking about me being the rich guy. And we laugh about it for a second, but it is not relevant to our friendship in any way. Like, they don't treat me with any extra respect because I have more money. when they're on Facebook, and because I have like copy fans on Facebook, which is always really fucking hilarious. But those people that will be like, "Oh my god, Chris Haddad, I got a cup of blood," and my real friends are just like, "That is the most hilarious thing I've ever seen in my life," and I'm like, "Yeah, me too." It helps keep me humble to be like, "This is fucking ridiculous." With newer people, it's interesting because I live in a couple different worlds, right? Like we have our business world where you and I will see each other at a conference and we'll hang out and shoot the shit. And there's a lot of other people. And I find that's a very comfortable world because you can talk numbers and it's no big deal, right? You can be like, "Oh, we did this thing. We did 1 million last year, blah, blah, blah." If I say numbers like that, if I say I had a $450,000 a day on my pig method launch or something like that, I can say that to you. And it's like, that's fucking cool. That's great. I can't say that to my regular friends here in Seattle. If I say that to them, half of them are like hyper liberal burner, blah, 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 who will think I'm an evil capitalist swine, etc., which, good for them. Fuck off, whatever. And the other half will just freak out in some way.
Wait, is that why you called it the pig method, because of the swine reference?
No, I didn't, but that's a really good way to go. I do think it's interesting though, how I don't know. I live an interesting life. People put a lot of stuff onto me, right? Because I'm a big personality and whatever else. So people project a lot of stuff onto me, and it's really interesting because I get like people on the far right who treat me like I'm this like communist pinko, whatever. And I'm like, that's not true. I like money. I just think you're crazy. And then I've got people on the far left who think I'm like this horrible whatever. And I'm like, dude, I got nail polish on. How horrible can I be? Like, what the fuck do you want? It's a good time though. It's an interesting. I don't know. I spend so much of my life just seeping myself in human psychology and why we do the things we do and what motivates us and the irrationality of us and the delusions that we live in. I was talking to my buddy John Rowley about this the other day for one of his things. And I talked, my bipolar 2 stuff. I went real fucking nuts for several years, about 6-7 years ago. And then I woke up one day, like slowly. Then like I got the meds.
What do you mean when you say nuts? Like what happened?
Oh, I lost my mind. Turns out I have bipolar 2, which is a very serious mental illness that I was dealing with for 39 years without knowing it. There are people, if you would talk to people who knew me 15 years ago, 10 years ago in the business, some of them will tell you stories about me being a massive asshole. And that's largely because I was dealing with an undiagnosed mental illness. But I went through, I don't know, like 2017 to 2020 or so, I full on lost my fucking mind. I was like paranoid. I was very timid, which people find hilarious. I had like massive insecurity. I was wearing tights all the time. I was going out. I mean, there's things I did that I don't even want to remember, quite honestly. And that sucked. But eventually my wife convinced me to get help and I got on meds. And then I had the experience of, over the course of years, waking up from my own delusions, waking up from that paranoid part of my brain that was telling me people like Perry Belcher, who's a friend of mine, hated me, or like Rich Sheffrin, or like, all these other people. Like there was all this kind of stuff. And I've had the experience of seeing reality a certain way and being absolutely convinced I was right. I am right. This is the way these things are. You think this about me. You think that about me. Here's blah, blah, blah. And then I was wrong about all of it. Right. And fucking hell, I wish I could find a way to transplant that experience into everyone else's head, quite honestly. Because that experience of being like, holy shit, I was wrong, is the most humbling thing. And also just like waking up and being like, wow, that guy I got into a screaming match with, like at whatever thing, because he ripped me off, I was an asshole. I was a fucking asshole. I just was. And then you have to go and apologize. And if you do it right, everybody's really whatever. I will say I am a better person and a humbler person for sure, because I got to go through that experience. And it sucks. I wouldn't want to go through it again, mind you. But as far as like, I don't know, man, I changed my entire perspective on life, basically.